CRM needs for small businesses are different compared to other market segments. So, which are the top 10 CRMs for small businesses in 2024? That's what we are going to discuss in this video. So, let's dive in.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
CRM lead, my name is Sam Gupta. I'm principal at Elevate IT. CRM lead is the independent ERP digital transformation consulting firm. We help our customers with the digital transformation strategy, CRM selection, CRM implementation, as well as change management. On that note, let's go back to today's topic, which is going to be top 10 CRMs for small businesses in 2024. Before we look at the list, let's understand how we define small businesses and what are going to be their needs and how these solutions differ to serve those needs. CRM needs small businesses in comparison to your startup segment. So startup segment, you're going to have a lot more limitations in terms of the budget, in terms of the skill set of the team. With small business, generally, they are at a phase where they have already outgrown that startup phase. So their needs are going to be slightly richer. So in general, in this particular segment, you are looking at roughly 20 to 100 employees, 10 to $100 million in revenue. So in this particular case, you are going to have a lot more people in your sales and marketing department. So the kind of capabilities that you are going to need are going to be different. But at this point of time, you are probably going to have a slightly higher implementation budget so that you can hire some of the consultants to be able to configure the processes that you would like to have inside your CRM. So some of the common feature sets that we see in this is now you might be at a phase where you would require some level of consolidation of different apps. So when you started, maybe you were using 5 or different CRMs. You might have one for your core CRM to be able to track your leads and opportunities, etc. Then you might have one for your marketing automation. You might have one for social media. So even in this particular patch, you might not have everything consolidated, but you would probably require some level of consolidation for that omni-channel traceability if you care for that. But even at this phase, you are probably not going to require any sort of complex capabilities such as your planning or territory management or the user workflows, the security workflows are not going to be as important. You would require some permissions, but your teams are not as big as the enterprises or the mid-market segment. So yes, there are going to be some capabilities that are going to be critical, but they are not going to be as high on the list as some of the other capabilities, such as your omnichannel tracking as well as consolidation. So the criteria that we have used for this particular list is your product share acquisition strategy focused on this particular market segment, which is going to be your small business. So if these solutions are acquiring a lot of capabilities, if they are winning a lot of logos in the small business segment, then that solution generally ranks higher on this list. The product roadmap, community, ecosystem, win rate, technology strategy, as well as investors. So these are some of the factors that we have captured to compile this list. So now let's look at the list. Number 10 on our list is Active Campaign. An Active Campaign has very deep marketing automation capabilities. It also has the CRM as part of the suite. So you are going to get some consolidation. It is going to be very similar to your HubSpot, but for the most part, some of the richer capabilities that you might find with HubSpot might not be there. So Active Campaign is going to be relevant for companies that might be limited on budget, but they have slightly different pricing model, the way they price. So 90% of the marketing automation companies are going to charge based on the email subscriptions as well as the number of email sent. So they are probably going to have just one or two variables. With Active Campaign, you are going to have a lot more variables you are being charged based on the modules, the capabilities. There are so many different factors that go in Active Campaign. So there are always going to be pros and cons of the pricing model. For example, some users might feel that they are not using some of the capabilities, but they might still pay with your Active Campaign just because they are taking slightly different approach. So they might not be able to take off those capabilities if you don't want to use them. With HubSpot and the other CRM systems that we have on the list, even though they might be charging slightly higher for per email and interaction, but as such, you might not be paying as much for those capabilities. You can pick and choose if you like that may not be supported with your Active Campaign. So it's a different pricing. So you need to analyze a little bit more in terms of which one is going to be effective for you in the short term, in the long term. And sometimes the pricing could be very steep, especially in the CRM community, when either your email is going to grow a lot, email list is going to grow a lot, or you are going to require other capabilities that might be substantially expensive in that particular solution portfolio. So you would require a lot more analysis in general to be able to understand what are going to be the pricing implications in the future. The other strength that we have with Active Campaign perspective is they have very unique layers of the community enablement as well as engagement tracking. So some solutions may have the community aspect with their CRM, but it might not be as detailed. Some solutions also have very detailed capabilities for your event management as well, whether you combine collaboration with your event partners or you need to manage the whole workflow for your events. If you are big into that specific space, then for those, some solutions may have slightly richer capabilities. So this is the community enablement feature, and communities have been on the rise for a lot of different solutions. So you are able to do that as part of your Active Campaign solution. And the slightly more comprehensive suite compared to the solutions in the startup segment. For example, when you look at solutions such as your Keep or Zendesk Sell, the capabilities are not going to be as rich, especially in the marketing automation category. When you're looking at integration with the CMS channels or these pop-ups, widgets, and these workflows, those capabilities are going to be far more detailed in your Active Campaign. The other strength that we have with Active Campaign is the cost of bulk emails is far lower in general, at least in the beginning. You are going to feel that they have the monthly subscription, and in that they are going to include a lot more emails in general, for which you will be charged. Let's say if you go with solutions such as your MailChimp or HubSpot. The limitations that you are looking at from Active Campaign perspective is the CRM data layers are limited for your B2B businesses. And generally, that is going to be a drawback with most of the simpler systems that are designed primarily for marketing automation. They are not as great fit for those operational workflows, operational transactions, even though those transactions are going to be limited to your customers. So here, these are not necessarily your ERP or operations workflows. These are really sales and marketing operations workflows. So they have to reside inside CRM. But even for those, Active Campaign might fall short. You are looking at very difficult pricing structure to be able to understand, to be able to estimate that, even though initially you might feel that it's simpler, but later on, once you start using it and when you need different capabilities, structuring those could be difficult just because of the rigidness of their pricing layers and the pricing options that they have. And the suite, some of the users have reported that the suite is not as fast as some of the other CRM systems. So that's going to be a con or a drawback with this particular solution. So that's number 10. Now, number 9 on our list is Odoo CRM. And Odoo may not be known as the CRM solution. They are primarily present in a similar category as your Zoho, which means that you are going to find a lot more apps inside one business suite. So they are going to have accounting, they are going to have marketing automation, project management, HCM. All of those apps are going to be part of one bag that is going to be captured inside Odoo. But the CRM is just one of the capabilities. So it's not necessarily the same module that you are going to find with ERPs, because with ERPs, the data model is far more correlated. So that's why they are not called CRM. It's going to be just the CRM module of an ERP. They are not a great fit for the CRM use cases in general, especially if you talk about those upstream marketing use cases or for the companies where they need to expedite their sales or customer experience transactions, that's where your CRM category is a better fit. So with Odoo, the design is very different. In their case, each app is going to have its own database. So you are not going to have as much embeddedness, but with that comes the flexibility that their CRM module is going to be a real CRM in comparison to other CRMs that we have on this list. So the strengths that we are looking at from the Odoo perspective is you are going to have a lot more capabilities as part of the suite, whether you are looking at integration with some of the other options, such as your project management or the accounting. If you need all of those integrations, you should be able to manage that inside your Odoo suite. And they have per app pricing, so you are not paying for everything when you are getting that. So that's a huge plus for the small businesses that are going to be limited on budget. And Odoo is a great ecosystem, even though the ecosystem may be limited to other operational aspects of the business. The ecosystem may not be as great or as rich as you're going to find with solutions such as your HubSpot with respect to your team marketing activities, but they have a great ecosystem, at least in finding the consulting help, the developers who can customize the platform for you. The limitations that you are going to run into with Odoo is not so well adopted as the standalone CRM platform. So again, their focus is not necessarily just the CRM. Their focus is going to be the complete suite. That's how they are installed. And generally, the approach that they take more from the distribution perspective is they are going to install either CRM or accounting first, and then their goal is going to be to sell the follow-on apps. That's how their business model is structured. So that they don't have as many standalone CRM installations as you're going to find with some of the other apps. And so the other limitations that we have with Odoo is the integration with upstream providers, DAM, search, ads. So if you are simply using everything from Odoo portfolio, then Odoo is a great fit. But let's say if you need that best of breed experience, especially in the marketing tech stack, you want to use the best tools, especially when you are going to have things such as your ads or such. There are going to be some tools that you would like to use with your marketing tech stack. And if your goal is that, then Odoo may be a challenge there. And overall, the upstream marketing capabilities are going to be limited in comparison to some of the other tools that we have this list. So that's number 9. Number 8 on our list is Keep. And Keep is primarily the platform for your startup segment. It's very limited overall in terms of the customizability. The security workflow, etc., is going to be substantially limited as well. But let's say if you have smaller companies that are limited in their budget, for that, Keep could be a great fit. The other strengths that we have with Keep, especially if you're going to be in the healthcare segment, then the HIPAA compliance, it becomes critical, and Keep has that. They're also going to have some of the workflows. The workflows might not be as detailed, as capable as what you're going to find with HubSpot, but at least they have some level of workflows built as part of your Keep. And then building complex funnels is probably not going to be a challenge with Keep. The limitations that you're looking at from Keep perspective is the integration with data apps. For example, let's say if you look at how many different apps are integrated inside your Zoom Info, Apollo, or any other apps that you might want to include to be able to automate your marketing funnel, your sales funnel, you are only going to find very few options, and Keep might not be included there. So they have limited direct integration. Yes, there are going to be external tools that you might be able to utilize for these integrations, but because of that, you might increase your implementation budget, even though some of the recipes might be pre-baked that you might be able to acquire and use. But for the most part, you are probably going to run into issues from the integration perspective. CRM is very context-centric. Now, in the small segment, you are going to have far more hierarchy where you are looking at slightly more customer 360 for many different customer segments. So if you are trying to connect all of those customer records, that could be limiting in Keep. Also, the options for landing page builders is probably going to be limited. And again, this is not a very rich suite. So that's number 8. Number 7 on our list is ClickUp. And ClickUp is primarily the project management, collaboration, document management centric tool. But a lot of companies are using ClickUp as their CRM as well, just because the platform can support. The strengths from ClickUp perspective is that you are going to find a lot more of these capabilities as part of the same suite. So your processes are going to be slightly integrated, especially when you look at your operational processes, but your CRM options are probably going to be limited. So the strengths that you're looking at from the ClickUp perspective is the ecosystem is far richer, especially when you look at the operational capabilities of the CRM, as well as the other operational capabilities. The options you might need to include as part of your workflow. So that is going to be a huge plus with ClickUp. The other strength that we have is the integration as well as the richer suite with the project management. The project management capabilities are far richer in general. The document management as well as the collaboration, especially if you talk about the marketing collaboration as part of ClickUp, that is going to be a huge plus. The limitations that you're looking at from the ClickUp perspective is that it is not a true CRM player. So you might not find as many logos, as many installation as the pure play CRM category, even though some companies might use it as CRM just because they might not have as thick CRM needs. For them, the correlation of those operational processes is going to be far more important than the pure play CRM capabilities, especially from the upstream perspective that you might see with the other solutions on this list. So the other limitations that we have is the upstream marketing integrations and primarily in operational CRM. So that's number 7. And number 6 on our list is Monday.com. And Monday.com is, again, it's great system for smaller companies seeking a CRM for the customizable workflows. So here, the comparison between your ClickUp and Monday.com, even though their positioning is very similar in the market, Monday.com is also a very project management centric tool. It's not necessarily a CRM, but a lot of companies use it as a CRM. So with Monday.com, the model is not going to be as restrictive as your numbers. And with that, you are going to require a lot more consulting help, but you are going to get at least the fluidity in customizing your processes the way you want. So that's a real difference between your ClickUp and Monday.com. But overall, from the positioning perspective, they are fairly similar in their market positioning, how companies are using them. So the strengths that you're looking at from the Monday.com perspective is great capabilities to build simple funnels. That's going to be a huge plus. Workflow and integration, as well as ecosystem, is probably going to be a huge plus with Monday.com. The limitations that you have with Monday.com is even though they have capabilities to be able to connect these boards, to be able to show different perspectives for the board, but overall connectivity between boards is not as relational as you might need in some of the industries where your customer relationships might be hierarchical and the relationships between your business objects may be hierarchical as well. So for those, you would require slightly richer capabilities, but for the capabilities where you have simpler relationship, for that, Monday.com is not a bad. And number other limitations that we have with Monday.com is those upstream marketing integrations are not going to be as rich, and that's why marketers probably won't appreciate something like Monday.com. But if you are trying to bring all of the teams together and trying to have them use this one tool, then Monday.com could be a great fit. And omnichannel marketing traceability may be a challenge with Monday.com, something that you are going to find with tools such as your HubSpot. So that's number 6. Number 5 on our list is Zendesk Sell. And Zendesk Sell is going to be similar to Keep, where your data model, etc., is going to be fairly limited. The biggest strength that Zendesk Sell has is its case management or the customer service management platform. So if you are going to be really active in your post-sales phase, you are not as rich in your marketing activities. For those scenarios, Zendesk could be a great fit for small companies, especially if they are looking for a simpler system and they might be on budget for the implementation. This could be a great system. So the strengths that we have for Zendesk Sell, as far as from the numbers of smaller businesses, it is going to be your intuitive interface, easy and inexpensive implementation. So those are some of the strengths. The limitations that you're looking at, some of the users have reported that it might be glitchy. Sometimes those problems could be because of your integrations, depending upon who owns those integration. So if you are acquiring external integration, let's say with your Zapier, then sometimes those issues could be because of that. Or if you have customized and you sort of didn't know what you were doing, then sometimes defects could be because of that. It might not necessarily be the platform itself. So do some more research, hire experts who might be able to help you if you're experiencing those issues. And overall, even though the sell and support platform are owned by Zendesk, but they are not as tightly integrated as some of the other platforms on this list. Marketing automation, the advanced CRM capabilities are going to be fairly limited. So for the most part, let's say if you're looking for those omni-channel traceability, one tool to do a lot more from the marketing tech stack perspective, that's not something that you're going to get with your Zendesk sell. So that's number 5. Number 4 on our list is Pipedrive CRM. And it is very similar to your Zendesk sell or Keep, very similar system, very similar perspective. So the biggest strength that we have with Pipedrive CRM is workflow automation. The look and feel is going to be very similar to your HubSpot. So that's a huge plus, especially if you have used HubSpot in the past. So you are not going to have as much transition, and then it is going to be slightly cheaper than your HubSpot. So that's a huge plus for your Pipedrive CRM. And the customization of reports as well as goal setting is there. So again, that's a big plus for Pipedrive. The limitations that you're looking at from Pipedrive's perspective is data structure is fairly weak from the B2B startup perspective, especially if you're going to have those complex relational relationships and you are trying to consolidate the interactions of all of those relationships, as well as any sort of data that you need for those relationships. That's where you are going to run into limitations. Import-export functionality is fairly limited as well. And for smaller companies, you probably would require that. So that's why Pipedrive is not as great fit for those scenarios. And the customizability is going to be limited as well. So that's number 4. Now, number 3 on our list is Salesforce. And Salesforce, in the startup segment, we had Salesforce Essentials. So this is the main Salesforce product. This is going to be slightly more expensive compared to your Essentials. And then you are going to get a lot more features. So for the most part, once you are going to be on their main version, the upgrade is going to be easier. Then you are getting all of those enterprise grade capabilities that might not be available with your Essentials version. But at the same time, it is designed for very complex enterprise grade workflows. So you would require a lot more consulting help in general to be able to customize. It's a very technical system. So you are going to require a lot more IT help, a lot more developers help to be able to do the same things that you might be able to do easily with the other CRM systems. So the strengths that you're looking at from the Salesforce perspective is the interface is now same with Salesforce. So regardless of whether you are going to use Salesforce as the small business or mid-size or enterprise, you never have to switch the platform. So that's a huge plus with Salesforce. The custom objects are fairly detailed, even though even Salesforce is going to struggle with some of those relationships just because that's how the CRM data model is structured. So if you have very complex interactions, very complex hierarchies as part of your data model, Salesforce may struggle there as well, even though they have a lot of platforms that have been designed for very complex interactions. They have packages for your not-for-profit, insurance, public sector. All of those pre-populated business objects already exist in your Salesforce ecosystem owned by Salesforce, but also you are going to find a lot more solutions in their ecosystem. So that's a huge plus with Salesforce. The report and list builder in general, they are not going to be as connected the way Salesforce data model is designed, but they serve very different purposes, and that's why they are not as connected. The UI is still not completely modern. They are still modernizing that. So the part of the solution is going to be on the Lightning UI, but you might have areas where you are still going to the old UI. The new UI is not going to be as intuitive, but at least you have ways to switch the UI within Salesforce. So that's a huge plus, but that's going to be a limitation as well, because you are going to have that patchy experience when you are going from screen to screen. The Limitations that you're looking at from the Salesforce perspective is the marketing automation is not as embedded, as not immersive experience as you are going to find with your HubSpot. The integrations are not as intuitive as well and might require consulting help. And that's the reason why Salesforce ranks slightly lower on the smaller business list. The reason for that is because it's probably going to be expensive as well as hard to handle for your smaller business segment. So that's number 3. Number 2 on our list is HubSpot CRM. So compared to your Salesforce, HubSpot has slightly simpler data model as well as process model. So that's why it's slightly superior fit for the smaller business segment. It might not be as great fit for your mid-market segment, etc. But overall, when you compare HubSpot with other solutions, such as your Pipedrive, Zendesk, Sell, etc., they are going to have even easier data model. They are not going to be as customizable as your HubSpot, but even HubSpot is not as customizable for your complex use cases. So the strengths that you are looking at from HubSpot perspective is that you are going to get one tool to centralize all of your upstream marketing activities. So that's where your HubSpot is really strong. They are not necessarily as strong in your downstream sales operations activities, sales activities, marketing operations activities. For those, HubSpot, it does have some capabilities, but they are just not as strong. The ecosystem, as well as integrations, they have a lot of them, especially in the upstream marketing. You are going to find a lot of options in general to be able to take advantage of that. And they are going to be pre-integrated. So you can choose whichever options that you like as part of your marketing tech stack. You still need to validate those integrations, whether they are going to work for your data as well as processes. But for the most part, you are going to find a lot of integrations. The comprehensive options, when you look at the CMS bucket, many different platforms that we have in the market. So HubSpot will be able to integrate with all of those CMS platforms. So that's a huge plus with HubSpot. The limitations that you're going to run into with HubSpot is data model is not as friendly for complex operational use cases, limited customizability, and might be too difficult and expensive for startups, even though they have a free option, but the pricing is going to be fairly steep. When you are going to require slightly more advanced option, that's how they are able to fund their premium model. But premium model is not as bad if you require only those basic capabilities. At least you are getting something for free, but then you are going to experience substantial price steep as soon as you are going to require those pricing options. That's why the pricing is going to be slightly trickier from the HubSpot perspective to be able to estimate what you are going to pay at the end of the day and what capabilities are you going to require in next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. So that's going to be a challenge with HubSpot. That's number 2. Now, number 1 on our list is Zoho. And Zoho is great for smaller companies looking for a complete suite with operational richness. So when you are going to be really deep in your operational activities, downstream marketing activities, sales operations activities, sales planning activities, for those, Zoho is a great solution. Zoho might not have as rich capabilities in those upstream marketing activities. They might not be as well integrated with the best of breed tools, just because the approach that Zoho is taking is they want to promote as many of their tools. So if you require that best of breed architecture from the marketing tech stack perspective, then Zoho might not be as great fit, because you are not going to find those integrations as pre-baked, pre-developed, as well adopted compared to other solutions that we have on this list. But the strengths that you're looking at from Zoho's perspective is the data model is very similar to your Salesforce. So building those complex use cases, especially in the service-centric verticals, whether you talk about not-for-profit, public sector, education, media, in those companies, you are going to have far more complex use cases in general, whether you look at any of the CPQ processes or you look at just the customer relationships. Those hierarchies are far more complex, and that's where Zoho really shines. It's going to be a complete stack, and the integration with other Zoho apps is going to be there. So you are going to get far more connections with your processes. It might not be as embedded experience as you will find with some of the other solutions, such as your ERP, but you are at least getting some connectivity with Zoho inside their portfolio. The limitations that you are going to run into with Zoho is not as integrated in the upstream marketing ecosystem and not as open ecosystem as your HubSpot, slightly more closed. they are trying to guard their own revenue. They want to hang out with their own solutions as well as apps. That's their primary motivation. So it's not going to be as open as HubSpot. But again, Zoho is not a bad solution and might require consulting help just because of the complexity of the data model as well as process model. So that's number one. It's going to be in this video. We are going to include the link of a detailed article that is going to have much deeper intel. So you might want to check that. We publish these videos on a weekly basis. So like and subscribe on YouTube. This podcast is also available on Spotify as well as Apple. So you might want to check there and subscribe if you have not checked our digital transformation report for 2024. We include a lot of these categories, CRM, ERP, and we are providing you the comprehensive perspective for your digital transformation strategy and planning. So if you have not checked, we are going to include the link of that as well. On that note, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.